TCU wide receiver Quentin Johnston has had a tale of two seasons, but over the last 4 weeks, he has accumulated a ton of yards, a lot of good stats, and now people are talking about him as a potential wide receiver one in the 2023 NFL draft. My name is Christian Williams, and today we're going to take a look at Quentin Johnston, his profile, and if he is the wide receiver one in this year's draft. What's up, y'all? Welcome back for another edition of these 2023 NFL draft profiles. We've been doing these for a few weeks now. Make sure you go back and check out some of the other ones I've done. I talked about Will Levis, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson as well. So we're not just focusing on, pass catchers and skill positions and things like that. But today we are. Today we're talking about Quentin Johnston. And the TCU wide receiver has had a fantastic year. He definitely hadn't performed statistically in a way that you would think of a wide receiver one, but over the last 4 weeks, he has really come on strongly. He has accumulated 536 yards and 4 touchdowns, averaging over 17 yards per reception over his last 4 weeks. It really came in a breakout week 6 game. And now people are really discussing him as one of the best receivers in the NFL draft. I believe Pro Football Focus actually recently bumped him up to wide receiver one over Jordan Addison and other guys like that. So today we're going to talk about it because I think he's got a unique profile and one that doesn't normally get discussed as wide receiver one, especially in today's NFL and how they've kind of transitioned to smaller people, smaller wide receivers. So let's just dive right into it. His background is very, very unique. So 4-star. He was ranked the number 14 receiver in the 2020 class. His composite score on 24/7 Sports was 0.9674. Very highly sought after recruit. And a lot of big schools were looking at him. He was from Texas, but most of that was based on just his athleticism. So as you can see here, the high school stats were not there. 7 receptions, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He didn't start playing football until his junior year. He is very new to the game of football when you compare it to some of these other guys. But he was an all-star basketball player, big dunker that caught the attention of the football guys at his high school. And then he was a star track jumper specifically. He was fast too, and we'll talk about how fast he actually is. But he really made his name. He was an all-state medalist, I believe, in high jump. 6'10" high jump, 22-foot long jump. In basketball, he averaged 13 points a game, 7 rebounds almost, and then 2 blocks a game. Just a very, very dynamic athlete. And that didn't really translate to high school stats. And so when you kind of look at his high school profile compared to some of those other guys, you're a little confused as to why he was regarded so highly. But that's actually what makes him so appealing as a prospect, because this kid, he started playing football his junior year. He really didn't get on the field a whole lot, but all of these big schools are still recruiting him. He ends up at TCU, where he has done a really good job in developing, because I would say he was very one-dimensional. I think his high school used him in one specific way, and that was you run fast, you run 9 routes, and we're going to throw you the ball deep down the field. Obviously, they didn't throw him the ball a whole lot, um, but yeah, and that's kind of how he was brought into TCU as well, and that's kind of how he was used for a large majority of his first 2 seasons. But now we're looking at, he's accumulated 97 receptions, 1,700 yards, 1,771 yards actually, and 12 touchdowns. And a lot of that production has actually come this year. Now, the disclaimer is that he's currently sitting. So he's broken his season long yards record. He's broken his season long receptions record. He already has more targets in 2022 than he did in 2021, which was a sort of breakout year. It was definitely a year that you could see all the great things that Quentin Johnston could be, but he never really put it all together. So in transitioning and kind of looking at how he is developed. So his yards per reception, his freshman year, 22.1, very much so just a deep threat. His yards per reception in year two, 18.3, still pretty much just a deep threat. And now in 2022, his yards per reception total is down to 15.5, which is, they still are using him downfield, but they have found really creative ways to get him the football, and that has really benefited the TCU offense. If you're following college football, TCU is one of the most dynamic offenses in the nation. Obviously, Tennessee, Ohio State, those guys are still better, but the TCU offense can keep up with almost everybody, and that's because they have found ways to get Quentin Johnston the ball, even if he's still a little bit raw in certain areas and he's not really dominating in the way that you would hope that he can in the future. But their creativity is kind of giving us a little bit of insight into how he may be used at the NFL level. Now, a little bit of a scouting report here. So Quentin Johnston, we talked about it. His number one strength is his athleticism. He is an incredible athlete, and that helps, the high pointing yards after the catch, the body control. Those are just kind of, secondary pieces to that athleticism. But he is reportedly already run a 4.4, and he's a 6'4", 215-pound receiver that is running a 4.4, and you see it on film. It is very apparent. This year, they're running him on a lot of drag routes underneath. They're getting him open by scheming it open and then letting him work, or they're letting him run little curl routes about 5 yards downfield, and then he's getting massive chunk plays. So what Quentin Johnston has been able to do this year has kind of shown, okay, this is where we see maybe him being a dominant wide receiver one that can command a massive target share and actually win in different ways. However, a few weaknesses. So route running refinement, release packages, all of that kind of goes together, right? Quentin Johnston is new to the sport. He is very much so still learning a route tree, but you've seen him run a ton of different routes now. He's really good in the deep third because that's, how he was used for the first 4 years of his career. But now we're starting to see, okay, he's winning on slants because he's an incredibly fluid athlete. He's able to win with ankle flexion and hip flexibility, and he's starting to get some of the nuance that you see from some of the good route runners in the NFL. At 6'4" and 215 pounds, that's a good thing. If he's gonna develop into a guy that can actually win with route running separation and not just catch point separation, which is where he's dominating right now. If he develops that, then we are looking at probably one of the best receivers in the NFL, because I think ultimately we have not seen what Quentin Johnston's ceiling is because of that lack of route running refinement. Now, do I think that he'll get there? Honestly, at this point, yes, because we have seen exactly what his trajectory has looked like and how he has improved each season, and even within this season. First 4 weeks, his first 4 weeks, 22 yards, 22 yards, 29 yards, 41 yards. He was getting targets, but they weren't really amounting to anything. And then you get a 17 target performance against Kansas where he goes for 206 yards and a touchdown, and he wins in a variety of different ways with a variety of different routes. Once he is able to develop an actual full route tree where he is winning on, deep digs, or he's winning on intermediate digs, but then he's also running a little whip route that can get him open in the flat and then get him, an additional 10 yards of space. We're looking at a very good receiver. Now, his high pointing ability has shown that he's got some pretty unique hands. He can go up, he can get the ball in those scenarios, but I will say I think that he has had some inconsistent hands. He ultimately he's dropping balls that he shouldn't be dropping. We've seen that a few times on his film this year, but again, new to the sport, new to the position, and new relatively, obviously. I mean, he's played football for a while now, but relative to others, he is still learning how to play the game of football. And so, yes, does he need to hit the jugs machine sometimes? I think so. I don't think he has the most natural hands, but you see the displays of, oh, he attacked that football pretty perfectly. He went up and got it with his hands. He's hands catching. He's not just body catching. Now, I think that the body catching stuff still pops up here and there, but he has really improved in that area since his freshman year, and that's been, one of the biggest reasons why he has exploded onto the scene this year. I do this comparison series for football guys. I write a comparison series, and the main thing that stood out to me when I sat down to do Quentin Johnston's is I could not think of a good comp for him based on current NFL players. So I cheated, and so my comparison for Quentin Johnston is actually Des Bryant. I think they're a little bit different in that I think Quentin is much faster after the catch, where Dez was very much so a physical player after the catch. But if you remember prime Dez Bryant and how he won, it was very much so catch point separation, winning on deep balls, being physical at the catch point, but being able to high point the football. And that is exactly what Quentin Johnston does. Now, that is cheating because there aren't too many 6'4", 215-pound receivers in the NFL that run 4.4 and play with Quentin Johnston's style. I'm excited to see how he develops because I think what an NFL team is going to do is they're going to say, look at all of these physical traits, look at the progressions that he has made over the first 3 years of his college career, and look at our coaching staff and what we can do with him. I'm assuming that a lot of teams are going to be very excited at the notion of doing that. Right now, he looks locked into the first round, especially if he keeps this production up through the rest of this year. It looks like he is going to be a top 20 NFL draft pick. And I think that you can make an argument that he is the wide receiver one of this class. And now when you start to factor in, well, the production had never really matched up. Now it is. And now we're looking at a very complete wide receiver prospect with elite physical traits that is still raw, and we still don't know what the ceiling is. So to answer the question of this episode, yes, I think that Quentin Johnston right now should be considered the wide receiver one. I think a lot of teams would be very, very excited to add him to their wide receiver core. And there are a lot of wide receiver needy teams that will be picking at the top of the draft. So ultimately, we could be looking at a top 10 NFL draft pick. We don't see that a whole lot with wide receivers these days, but we did just see, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle both go in the top 10. I think there's a chance that Quentin Johnston is a top 10 pick when all is said and done. So, all right, guys, I think that'll do it for this one. Make sure, if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, toss those notifications on as well. We put out a video almost every day. Our subscribers are up. We're very thankful for everyone who is watching our videos. If you feel inclined, we do have a Patreon where we post more content as well. That is patreon.com/the Got a lot of good stuff in there. And actually on this feed, there is a video highlighting all the good things in there that Kevin did. It's very, very good. Go check that out when you're done watching here. We will be doing this every week. So if you guys want, drop a comment with who you want me to highlight next week. I've kind of just been picking players, but I want this to be a little more interactive. And if you guys drop in the comments who you want to see next week, I will definitely go back, read those, and try to figure that out before I record next week's video. But thank you guys all for watching. We'll catch you next time.